Ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us for AppMaker University's very first, James, introduction to Google's newest product, AppMaker. So we are so glad to be here. My name is Shelly Repp. I'm one of the partners here at Ignite Synergy, and with me today is our CEO, James Ferreira. Now, James, you're a little bit of a big deal. This is my chance to brag about you for just a second.
Blush,
James is a Google developer expert. He is also the author of 2 O'Reilly books about Google Apps script. And then, James, you also migrated the New Mexico Attorney General's office over to Google Apps for Government. And that was the very first government agency to move to this platform. Is that true?
Yes, actually. So
I know we're working through some technical things.
We're seeing what our crew is saying here. We just to give you a little update. We had this big snowstorm.
I know, and here's the deal:
crazy.
New Mexico does not operate, which is our base location. We don't operate well with cloud cover or snow because we literally have like 300 days a year of sunshine. So when there's a tiny bit of water on the streets, everybody goes crazy. Just as an FYI.
And we're actually in our backup studio today.
Exactly.
Where we've had to set up the camera and all that stuff on our own, and the original studio, the tricoder went out, of course. So now
exactly.
we can't transmit to the enterprise. So yeah,
but that's okay because we're overcomers.
We're just making sure that we have everything running. We want to make sure we're on camera and we see you guys and give you a great presentation. So thank you for the introduction, Shelly. I really appreciate that. And we're really excited about AppMaker. It's an amazing product. We've been working with it for about 6 months now, and it's it's a tool that allows you to build apps on Google's platform. It's amazing. I'm going to actually switch over to a couple slides here to show you guys a little bit about the product itself.
Great.
And so we'll just leave it here on the Google Slides mode. And so AppMaker is a low-code application development tool, and it allows you to build things quickly. One of the things that really drew us to this platform was the fact that we could see something that's completely cloud-based. You don't have to set up a bunch of networks. You don't have to set up computers and all those different things that typically go into developing applications. The deployment platform is all built in. It runs in Google's cloud, so you have all the same security features and all those things going on with it as well. It is very easy to use, and it also lets you build the apps that your organization needs. So I want to just kind of skim over and tell you a little bit about what we're doing at AppMaker University. What AppMaker University is we partner with Google to work on the AppMaker platform and do the training for it. And so what we've come up with is we've come up with an entire website, and I do want to take you through that just kind of quickly here, kind of give you a little show of that. So this is AppMaker University, the opening page, and really the bulk of what we're doing here is we're offering all these training videos that'll help you get up to speed on how AppMaker works and what you can do with it. So before we jump in, I just want to give you a little heads up of the demo here. We are going to actually build an app today. We'll get to that here in just a little bit, but I want to tell you a little bit more about our efforts. So the development track is the other side of the business, where we're helping businesses build things that maybe they don't want to spend the time to build it, or they don't feel like they have the technical skill to do it. Although we feel that anyone can build an app. And so that's really our focus, is the training track. So self-paced videos, do-it-yourself templates, boot camp, and then we're also looking at doing some college and high school courses that'll also help us out. There's a lot of Google partners out there, and if you're a business, you probably have a G Suite partner. And so we're also helping them understand a little bit more about what this AppMaker thing is and how it's really going to help you out, how it's going to help them out in better servicing you as their client. We're also working with the community. We want to bring out the first AppMaker certified training program so the developers can get up to speed. And then Also, we're also working with the help communities, the G Plus and the Slack communities and the blogs. And so for some of you that are wondering about AppMaker, you do have to go to sign up for it. It's in its EAP, the Early Access Program. And you'll have to fill out a form, and then the list is pretty long. We might be able, if you have a really great project, we might be able to help you out on getting you fast-tracked into the program. For now, we're planning on hoping to see Google release completely without having to sign up. It'll just become one of the services in G Suite here sometime around the beginning of the second quarter for this year. So sign up and get into the early access program as soon as you can, and then you'll be able to take advantage of our training materials. So I just wanted to spend a couple more minutes here and just go over a couple of things, because when we talk about AppMaker, we know it builds apps. We know it's this online platform. It's offered by Google. It's great. But what are the we always get this question of what are the kinds of things that you can build with it? And so a couple of things that we wanted to put together here. We have these templates that we're working on that we're going to provide for you. That's part of being involved with AppMaker University. And so you'll be able to download these and install them as apps and then run them out of the box. And we'll have videos that show you how to do all of that, how to set them up, how to configure them, and how to do it yourself so that you can get these kinds of things running. And here's kind of a list of the different applications that you'd be able to build. So let's switch over to what we're going to do today. So the main things that we're going to look at is we're going to build an app, and it's going to be a service desk app. We thought it was kind of something that everybody kind of would do, and especially if you're in any kind of IT organization. But this could be extended out to anything that has to do with offering service to clients, if the clients are employees within your organization. And this is going to be a database-driven web application. We're going to have a user interface where users can enter tickets and check the status, and then we'll have the service desk side of it, so the administrative side, where you're able to do some assigning a technician and taking notes and doing all those kinds of things. Now, traditionally, a web-based application, you would think, wow, this is going to be a pretty long webinar because we're going to have to set up a database and we're going to have to do all this coding and that kind of things. But we think we can get this done in about 15 minutes. So, and it'll also give you a really good preview of how AppMaker works. We're going to touch a lot of the different parts of of AppMaker itself and going through all those kinds of things. So let's switch on over to the AppMaker editor window. And so this is what it looks like when you open up AppMaker. It gives you the AppMaker editor, and in the center we have the canvas where you do your building of your app. And then over on the left side we have some data points, we have pages, we have scripts. On the right hand side we have this property editor, and we have a way to do some CSS and then to be able to see the outline. And you'll see how a lot of this stuff goes together as we start putting together this app. So to start off, let's just the first thing we're going to do is, well, let's go ahead and name this thing so we have something to call it. So call it Service Desk. And then, we're going to, really, since we're storing data, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up a database. So what we have built into AppMaker is we have these Google Drive tables. And so in a Google Drive table, that's the kind of database we're going to create. We also have ways of creating or hooking to external databases such as Cloud SQL, and that's really powerful, especially in your larger organizations where you have huge amounts of data and already pre-existing SQL type databases. AppMaker is very seamless in getting connected to those. Let's click on next, and we'll call this database tickets. And after that, it creates a database. It's just that simple to create a Drive table database within AppMaker. And so we'll add a couple fields. And we have the different choices of kinds of fields. We'll just call this one date. Don't need to be too creative here. And the thing that's really neat is you put in the field name, and then it'll do some capitalization and things like that to do the display name and kind of guess at those things. And that's kind of good. And so let's add another field. We want to know who's going to be, who filled out the request for the ticket. So this will be reported by And see, I use an underscore there in these. It's kind of one of those kickbacks of doing Cloud SQL databases where you need to use that instead of camel case. And when I hit tab, you see it actually did do that capitalization thing for us, and that's kind of fun. So let's also do a status. So we want to know what the status of these tickets are. So we'll put in status. And now this is kind of a special field because we only want to have a certain number of status types. So we can go down here to, we click on the advanced, and then we can click on possible values. And we can have new, and we can have, let's do in progress. And let's have closed. And those will be the different types of choices we have for our status field. All right, moving on along here, let's add another field. We'll also add a string here for this, and this one was called title. And then a description. We'll definitely need a description. And so you have to go through a few things here. Let's add this one. This is kind of an interesting field here. We've used the string fields and we use date field here. Let's add a Boolean to this, and we'll call this one impedes work, so that they can check a box that will tell us that that impedes their work and they can't do anything. So that gives it a little higher priority. And we can add, just to get some other things in here, just to see the different fields we have. We can do affected. And for this one, let's just change the name, the display name here. We'll just put a number of people affected. All right, and then let's do one more. We're going to need to know who the technician assigned to this is. So we'll make one more string field here. And we'll call that assigned. Okay, that seems like enough for our database to get going. And so let's switch over to the events tab here, because one of the things we want to do is we don't want to have the users having to enter in some of the different details of how this works. And what we have here on the events tab is when we do create a new record, we have create, on load, on save, and delete. So we can do these other things when we're adding records to the database or working with the records in the database. And so for this one, and what we get is we actually have this record event that's going to get taken. And one of the neat things about AppMaker is pretty much anywhere that you'd be able to type into a field, you can hit Control and then spacebar and find out what the autocompletes are. And that's super, super handy in knowing what you want to do. And in this case, one of the things we want to do is we want to use this reported by field, and we want it to equal the user's email address, and so that we have a for sure identity of who they were. So we'll just type in, so to get that, we use one of the built-in AppScript functions, which is called session. And then we can do the get active user, which is a function. And then we do get email. And that will give us the email address of the person that created the record. We're going to want to do a couple more things because we also had a date and some other things there. So we'll also want to use, and the status too. Don't forget the status. So let's think about the status there. We would just want that to equal new. And for the final part here, we want to set that date. And let's see, where's the date? There it is. And we just use a standard date type object. And there you have it. So it looks like a little bit of coding, but it's more, with the type ahead and the autocompletes and things like that, it's very easy to set these things up. And so that's really all we need to do there on when we do create a new event to add those things into the database. So let's go over to the page here. If we click over here in pages, we can switch back to the page. And if we use the property editor over here, we can give it a new name. And we'll call this side of it user desk. So we're going to start designing the user side of things. Up here we have this variant menu here where we can set the color of the background, and we'd rather it was white because it just looks a little nicer. And we also want, now that we've created a database, we can go down here to this data sources and set it to tickets, which is the name of our tickets. We're going to add a label now, and so we click on this. So this is the widgets panel button here, and it opens up the widgets panel so we can drag out a label onto the field there. We can double click it here, and we can type in the name, and we'll call this one My Service Desk. All right. And that looks good there, but let's give it a little bit of some style there. So in the variants, as we scroll down through the different variants, we can see that it changes it. And let's set this one about 2. That looks pretty nice. I'll put that over there. All right. And now the next thing we want to do is we want to add a table to our app here. So this is the table widget. And when we drop it out on the screen, we're asked what data source we want to use. Right now we only have one, but you can also see that it inherited the data source from the page. And so we'll just click on next there. And we don't want everything in this table because it would take up too much space on the screen. So we're gonna close that off, and we're just gonna select the date and the status and the title. And that'll give us a good idea of what's there. All right, and we'll click next. And then we can click finish. All right, so now we've got a table, and we'll just make it a little bit bigger here just to kind of fill up the page, take up some space. And this is going to be the list of tickets that our user has created within our app. And we can also align these. Let's see, we get that center line if we get it just right. There it is, somewhere right around in there. So we can center objects. We have a lot of those guidelines showing up. The next thing we want to do is we want a way for them to enter tickets. And the way we think looks really nice here is if they click a button and then it opens up a dialog in the middle of the page so they can fill out the form, because when people like to fill out forms, it's a lot easier filling out something that looks like a spreadsheet. So let's create another page just by clicking the plus next to pages. And we're going to name this one. And this time we'll use the page editor over here, and we'll call this one Add Ticket. All right. And we're going to set the data source again to tickets. That way it's matching our page. And we'll open up the widgets panel again here. And this time we want to add a form. And we'll see this is where the magic of AppMaker really starts to show. And I want it to be right up here in the corner, but sometimes it's difficult to get it aligned perfectly, and I'll show you how to fix that here in just a second. So once I drop it, I'll be able to get the inherit tickets. This time we want to use an insert form. We can also create an edit form, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. All right, so on the questions here, it's showing us that we can all of these different fields, and they're going to all be added to our form. But the all right, and that looks good for that. So let's go ahead and just click finish here. And there's our form. So AppMaker has already detected that we needed a date field, and that the status is a drop down, and we'll have a selection for it, and then the impedes work is a checkbox. So all these things are already just taken care of for us in AppMaker. We didn't really even have to create those objects. I don't really need this description here because we kind of know what it does. And so we'll take and let's change the title up here to the top. So it says add a service request. All right, and then we can do some sizing here. Let's take a look. We don't want this assigned field because we don't want the user to assign somebody. We'll do that on the back end, but we do want to have the other places here. This impedes work is a checkbox now, and that's okay, but we can do better on that. So let's change that to a switch. They just look a little bit cooler. All right, that looks pretty good there. The other thing is, if you remember, we also had the date that's being auto set, the report that's reported by that's being auto set, and the status that we did set. So we really don't need the user to do those things. And that really kind of narrows down their form to just having just the bare essentials that they need. So we handle a lot of that stuff through automation so they don't have to. And that always makes them happy. So I was wanting this to be right at the very top of the page, and I was having trouble aligning up there. So you can use the layout over here to also align things. And you see it's 10 pixels down from the top. So if we just delete that one, then it'll bump it right up there. The other thing we want to do is we want to size the page itself to be just the same size as the form. And that way it will pop up right in the middle of the screen and we'll only see just the form. Okay, so there's that. We are going to need one other thing here. Is we need a way to show the dictionary. No, that's not actually what I want to do. But we need a way to close this dialog once we're done using it. So we'll use this button here, and you can type close. And so that gives us a close button, but it looks kind of, it could be better. So AppMaker has this ability to turn the buttons into icons. And so the word close, and we use the material design icons to do those. So if we wanted edit, and I'll show you edit later, but if I change the word to edit, then we get a pencil, and there's several hundred different icons that we can use. So close looks good for this application. So we'll use that. The other thing we're going to have to do is we have to make it do something. So it's just a button sitting there on the page right now, and you could click it all day long and it won't do anything. So we need to assign this click handler here. And AppMaker also makes that super easy. We'll just say close dialog. So now that button's fully functional and working. So the other thing we'll need here is now that we've got our form to enter the information, we need some way to open the form. So let's switch back to the user desk page, and we're going to open up the widgets panel again, and let's drag out a button. And I want it to be kind of over here in this corner on the right hand side. And this time we're going to choose one of these fab buttons. They're the round ones that you see all over Google now, and they look kind of neat. And if we type add here, we get that plus key. So it looks just like a Google button. We like that. Same kind of thing here. We want to assign it to do something. So the action for this one is to open the dialog that we just created. And that was called the add ticket dialog. All right, well, we've got far enough now that I think that we could go ahead and take a look at this. So let's click the preview button. And what this is doing now is in the back end, it's generating a preview of the app we just built. And we'll put it up live on the page so that we can see it. And it does take a little bit of time to generate the first time you do this because it's doing a lot of things. And then it'll also ask us for some permissions so that it can run and do what it's supposed to do. All right, a little bit more permissions. These are, and you should be familiar with these if you've been using Google for very long. It's going to ask us first to grant access to the different things that it needs to do. These are pretty straightforward Google access grants that you're probably used to. And here we go. So this is the preview window. And there's a couple of things that are different about the preview window than your deployed version. One is this area down here at the bottom, which is the error console that helps you do things like debug. If there's something that went wrong, it'll be in red writing down there that says there's an error somewhere. And the other thing you get is this page chooser up here. So that you can switch between your different pages and be able to test those out without having to build in the navigation to begin with. Those are only available in preview, so when you do deploy the app, you're not going to see that stuff. So right now we see it's loaded up. We see my service desk. There's got a table here. It's empty. There's no data in here, so let's fix that. So we'll click on our button, and there's our pop-up. And we'll just add an issue here. And we'll say this is impeding the work, and we get to use that little switch, and it's only affecting me right now. And so when I click submit, You can see this, and I'm going to leave the dialog open here for just a second, but you can see that the data is actually already in the table, and that's due to AppMaker's data binding model, where everything is live and binding. So when we create something like this, you'll see that you click the submit button to create a new record, but when we go into edit modes, you're going to see that it actually updates live when you move out of any field. All right, so we have a working application. It looks like our database is working. Looks like we're able to enter information and do those pieces. So let's go back over to the editor, and we'll just put together the back end so that the administrators and the help desk people can go ahead and respond to these tickets and do that. It's because it's very similar on the back end for what we're going to see. We're just going to duplicate the user desk page, so we don't have to set that up at all. And we'll type in on this side, we'll call it service desk. Okay. And we'll change the title up here so that we know that we're in the right place when we're moving around as the admin, and it'll make it easier for you to understand as we're going through this tutorial. So now we want to remove this table. And the reason why is we want to add more stuff to it. We want it to do more because on the back end, it'll be nice to have more things for the user to see. And we'll just recreate it. We'll just add another table because it's so easy to do that. We can just drag another one right out there. And in this one, we want to have a few more things. It's already bound to the tickets. We're going to go through and set some of our tables. So what we can do is we can do things like, if we check this box, we can do inline editing on the table itself. So we can have those different things going on. The description is really kind of always going to be just too long. So let's just remove that, because that doesn't really help us much. The title is really great, knowing if it impedes the work, the number of people affected. And we're going to take care of doing the assigned in a different window. So let's just take that out for now. And we'll click next and we'll see how that fits on the page. It looks pretty good. I'll make it a little bit wider. And then I think I'll just drop it down a little bit so it's below the button. All right, so the service desk is going to be able to also create create tickets if somebody, say, calls one in or something like that. And we've got a couple of, we can see that we're kind of losing a little bit of the people part here, so we can always go down and just adjust that a little bit. Actually, put that back and we'll actually adjust the height, not the position on the page. We can do that right here in the property editor by going to layout and then just precisely make changes in those, and then we can see those show up really nicely. We see status here and the title, and those are the different items we're going to have. So we want to be able to open one of these records up and edit the whole record independently of the table. So we're going to have to create an edit form to do that. So let's go ahead and create a new page. And we'll call this one edit ticket. Turn it to white. And we're going to set the data source to tickets, of course. All right, so let's add a form. And this time, so we'll open up the widgets panel, drag a form out here onto the page. And this time we're going to use the edit form. That way it gives us fields that are live with the data on the field. And we'll just keep everything so we can see it all. All right. We don't really want to navigate between the different records when we open this. We just want to be able to see one record. And we don't want to create records from here. We want to create them from the other button that we've already got. So we'll just delete those two auto-generated items. Again, let's turn this into something a little nicer looking. The assigned person, this is really kind of fun. If we wanted to assign somebody, we typically have to type in their email address or type in their name or something like that. But AppMaker has a really neat way of doing this. And so I want to remove that field for now. And then what I'm going to do is add in this picker widget. And the first thing it's going to ask me is if it's okay to create a directory model. And this is going to create a model that uses the directory from our domain to choose the different names and stuff like that. So we'll type in choose user. I'll say choose attack. And the value will be assigned. All right. So that gives us our edit tickets form that we can then use. Again, we're going to have to create a close button so that it can close. So we'll drag one of those out onto the page here. I'm going to just kind of leave it hanging up here for now, and I'll show you why here in a minute. All right, close dialog. All right, so that'll function now as well. So one thing that'd be really nice for our technicians to have would be a way to track their notes on this ticket. And so we're not just going to just get the tickets and be able to assign a technician to them. We also want the technicians to be able to write in some notes. And because there might be lots of notes to a single ticket, we're going to need to create another database that's a relational table to this one, and so that we can add notes to that. So let's go ahead and click here on and create a new table. So we'll create our new model, and we'll call this one notes. And it'll need a date of when the note was created. Not an 8, a date. And the technician. And this will be collecting their email address when they enter the notes. Now it's just me here today on doing the demo, so it'll just be my name that shows up. And then we'll need a string field for doing the notes. So we'll call this note. All right, that's enough tables for doing the notes. Again, because we want some of this stuff to automatically enter on for the technician so that they don't have to do it for themselves, we'll use the record and the technician, and again use that session get active user get email. All right, they told me that we were having a little bit of trouble with the audio, so I just switched the audio sources for you, so I hope that wasn't too much of a problem. And so here in this table, we're actually going to want to be able to edit the notes field, and we do not want to see the tickets. So that will give us the fields we have. And we want this to look more like a field. So if you hold the shift key down, you can select many different items. We want this to kind of have kind of a chat kind of feel of it. So we're just going to delete the headers completely. And then we'll make the space bigger. And then we can move our date field down more toward the bottom. Even just a little bit more space. Move the date field down towards the bottom here. And move technicians also down toward the bottom. Line those two up. And I'm going to delete this here because I want something bigger. So let's get a text area, and we'll drag a text area out here in place of this note. So this is the thing that we're working with on the table here is actually a list object. And so it allows us to do these larger things here. And this is here. So here's where our note will go. And as we add more notes, they'll go down through here. Of course, we're going to need a way to add notes to the page. So let's first get a little bit of sizing here. And so we'll need to add a add note button. So it sounds like some people were, wait, I was just looking at the comments, and it looks like a couple people were asking for when our audio cut out there. Sorry about that audio thing here. Glad we were able to switch that over. Let me go back over the relations here really quick before we go, because that is kind of tricky. And you know, so I don't want anybody to miss out on that. So here when we were creating our notes table, in order to make it link to the tickets table, we create a relationship. So we use this relations tab, and that's where we are selecting that the notes table will have many notes, and then we relate it to the tickets table where it will just have one ticket that'll have the many notes. So each ticket has many notes, and that's what we're saying here on that portion of the relationship. And so that's how that works here. When we do go back to the edit ticket field, when I drug this table out onto the field, and I'm just going to pop another one out there just so everybody can see that happen here. This table, because this is really important, the data source to the page is set to tickets. But when I drop a table, I do have this option for choosing tickets notes relation, and that's really important because we want to be able to get the notes that are related to this ticket, and that's how that works, is by having the data source of the page set to the primary table, and then the related table we set the objects on top of that so that they're all related. I'm just going to click cancel here, and then we'll get back to actually editing our form. So that's looking pretty good there, I think. Let's see what that should be about. Height of about 100, that looks pretty good. And this field here that I just drug out here, so this text area right now, it's not hooked to anything. It's just sitting out there on the page. So what we need to do is we need to go over here to the value, and we're going to click on binding. And then we're just going to choose the note field. And notice how, I'll just open that again. Notice how it's only giving us the fields from our related database, the notes database. It's not giving us all the fields from tickets. All right, let's see, we'll need to tell them what to do. So let's add a label here that says, headline, that looks good. Okay, so there's our notes. Right now there's no way to, I wanted to show you one other thing here. When we have all these objects out on the page, sometimes it's hard to tell where everything's located at. And if we move this over too much, it could be sitting on top of the other one. And so there is a layout object here down at the bottom that shows the outlines of all the different boxes and that kind of things. And sometimes it can be a little confusing, but it can also be really handy if you want to not overlap different fields. Also, I wanted to show you just quickly, we have a video that shows you how to do transformations, but on these dates, they have something that's really neat here. And we can go, and if we click on more options, you'll find this format. And we can select different formats for our date so that we can have it look like something that we're more used to seeing. And we do go over transformers, and there's all kinds of transformers for changing, even if it's a Boolean, you can make it say true, false, or yes, no, or really whatever you want. But changing numbers, making currency, and all those different kinds of things. So we'll just add that for the date. We do want to be able to delete these notes, and we'll need a button to do that. So let's just add one more button out here. And this one, we will type delete in the text, and then we'll set this variant over here to icon, and that gives us that really cool little trash can looking thing. Align it over there. Its on click is delete current item. All right. Well, it almost works, but we don't really have a way to create a new note because there's no button to click that will create a new note. It's just going to sit there. So again, let me see how AppMaker just makes it so easy to do these things. When we want to add button. And for this one, I kind of want something a little tinier than that big button. And we have an option for the Fab Mini, which makes a little tiny plus button we can stick down there. So I'll line that up there. We have a way to create a note. All right, that was quite a bit of work. Let's go ahead and fire it up, and we'll do a preview, and we'll see if this thing works. Now, one thing that you'll see AppMaker do is it typically will open with you can set the default page that it opens with. And I noticed we will have to grant some permissions here for using the directory. See who the domain users is. It's a view-only type of a situation, so you don't have to be an admin to use that. And it opened with our edit tickets page, so I just want to switch it back over to the service desk. And here we have our record, but you can see that one of the things I forgot is there's nothing here to click to actually open that record. So let's go back and just quickly fix that. I'll open the service desk here, and in order to open a record, everything on this row is bound. So if we go ahead and just drag out a button onto that row, it's going to match the data on that row as well. We'll turn that into an icon, kind of move it over. That looks pretty good. Doesn't really want to cooperate. And this will just be, we want that to actually pop up as a dialog. So we'll click the open dialog and edit ticket. And now we'll get a good preview and be able to open up our edit dialog to that record and see it populate the data. Because it is having to generate that code each time we click the preview button, it's doing that. And when it's deployed, of course, it's a lot faster because it's not recalculating all your code. So here we have our pop-up for notes. And we have our date. We have the information from that note is already filled because we put that edit button on the same line as the data. You can see it's all showing up here as that row, and it's all live. So when we do change things here, it also changes there. Let's get a little preview of this here. So let's type in name, and as we start typing, you see it actually pulls my name and email address from the directory, and even my picture. We just set it to the default, which is just to get the email address, so we can choose a tech there. And then let's try out this add note feature with the related tables that we had set up. So Well, our button's not doing anything, so we must have forgotten to wire it up. These are the things you do when you have a live live broadcast. Sometimes you skip over a few things, but it's really easy to fix. All we have to do is just assign the button on to have the click handler to create record. So create new item, and it's really that easy. So we'll go ahead and open up our service desk again, and now we'll actually see that working. Okay, now let's click the edit button, and we click our add note button. There we go. It's automatically pulling my name or my email address, and it's getting the date. And then I can go ahead and type, this is a note. I can change the status here to in progress so we know that it's working. And let's just add one more note. Okay, so you can see how that's working there. All right, so now this specific ticket has notes that are made to it. Just to show you how that is all coming together here, also I wanted to show you here that we updated this to in progress. We can do inline editings here as well. So that was one of the things we showed by checking that box that allows us to edit the table. Let's just quickly create one more record here, just so I can show you how that's working from the service desk side. And then if we were to open that, then you can see that we don't have any notes in here because these notes are for this only. Okay, because the notes are related to the field itself, or to the to each of the records. So when we look at this one, we have those two notes. And the reason you're seeing this pop up is because it does autofocus on the field, and we may actually want to disable those fields, and we can do that as well from the properties editor. So let's close this. One thing I don't like about how this app is looking here is these notes are really kind of difficult to distinguish, and they just don't quite look like the notes that you'd want to see on a page. And so what we can do is we can go back over to the editor here, and let's get to our edit ticket. And this is kind of one of those more advanced features, but I just thought I'd give you a quick preview of that. And that is using some CSS to make things look a little bit prettier. And so if we click on this row here, so that the row is selected, so this is the row contains all the different elements we have in there. We want to kind of make that into kind of a text bubble kind of thing. And so if we click over here, when we use the control spacebar, the top item is always going to be the thing selected. And so that allows us to just quickly say, okay, that's the one we want. And I'm going to just do a little bit of CSS. Now, what's really neat about AppMaker is it does have all the autocompletes for CSS. So we can scroll down through these and find like, say, border radius and make that 20 pixels. Now this looks like a little bit of coding. CSS is sort of called a coding language, but it does allow you to have really, really extensive control over everything on the page. So instead of offering just a specific set of styling things to click on in the menu, Google has decided to use the CSS styler here, and it really does have a lot more power. You can control just about everything you can imagine from a visual aspect with CSS. That's how all web pages are built. And so this makes it really kind of easy. And I'm just going to choose a nice blue color here. We like to use the material design colors. To use these, and it's kind of extending out just a little bit, so I'm going to set a margin here all the way around, and there you have it. We've sized it a little bit here. I'm going to have to move these over just a little bit so that our delete button fits within the blue area. All right. The other thing that I didn't like is I wanted the app to kind of be centered in the middle of the page. And so whenever we have this app dot, and then we can select the different parts of the app, of the page itself. And we'll just, I get this question a lot, is how do I make it centered? So I just thought I'd kind of show you how we do it. Our page width was 960 on these guys, so we'll set that. So the margin for the page, it's 0 and auto. That'll center it up. All right, let's give that a look and see if that's improved our design a little bit. All right, almost loaded. And remember, this one had 2 tickets, so let's see how that looks here. There we go. And now our notes have a lot nicer look and feel to them. So they're separated and they have a little bit of color. And so there's a few things that kind of help get you further along in AppMaker. So I wanted to direct you back to AppMaker University. So we are, of course, providing videos. Our goal is to have around 50 videos available by the end of this year on AppMaker University. So all this kind of stuff. Of course, we go over this in a lot more detail. We really dive deep down into all the different pieces of how you do these apps. We'll have the templates, which will be similar to this, where we go through a walkthrough, we build every step of it, we show you how to modify everything, which buttons do what, and all those things. So we really want to become the biggest resource on the internet for learning this new AppMaker thing, and also just showing off how easy it is that with almost no coding at all, we're able to build some pretty sophisticated apps that and very quickly as well. So.
Right, James, I agree with all of that. And in fact, our little motto about AppMaker University is that we believe every business should have software that is perfectly matched to their objectives, sorry about that, and helps them better achieve their goals. And you can really do that when you can grasp this AppMaker product. Google did a great job with it, and we're excited about being able to provide the training for that.
All right, so just go ahead and find your way over to AppMaker University. Of course, get signed up for the AAP. You need to do that. If you're having trouble with that, then drop us an email or fill out our contact form here on our website, and we'll get back to you, and we'll try to get you moved up on the list. And then because we are partnering with Google, we are their launch partner for working with this, and we're really happy to be doing that. We love the product. Obviously, you can tell we're huge fans. So of course, please come by AppMaker University, get signed up for the AP, and let's start building some really great apps. We're not going to be able to switch back over to the video. I'd really like to give you the in-person goodbye, but it's just not working for us right now. So sorry about some of our technical difficulties in our backup studio. We'll be back next time with some better video and all that. But I hope you did get a good walkthrough of how we build these apps and are ready to learn more. Thanks a lot.
Bye.